Religions create expectations for children. When they enter this world, they're expected to do this, they're expected to do that. All boys are this way, all girls are that way. There can only be the this way and that way. Yeah, the way for men and the way for women. Nothing more. And that God created woman for man. Along with this idea is that there are rules that they created. Now remember, these are created by men. That they say their God has given them power over nature. That they command what nature can do, and they can do whatever they want with nature. That nature is that nature must obey the will of man. And so they go around this globe, our beautiful grandmother Earth. They come to a people and say, do you believe in our God? And once they learn their language, and then they say, okay, you must believe in our God or die. And many of them were baptized with the sword, meaning they were killed. They were forced into baptism, and if they fought it, they were killed. And lands were taken from them. The Pope in those days decreed that if the people in a land do not believe in their God, then God gave them the right to take that land from those people and use it the way God intended this to be used. This is a papal bull that is still in effect, or I think it's papal bull, that's still in effect. This law has never been rescinded. To this day, this is still a Catholic law. It's unreal, yeah? And this is how Indians in Central America lost everything to the Catholic Church, including their lives. That is duality. Yeah, that is duality. So they say you either believe in our way or you die. Yeah. And then the Spanish Inquisition that happened, and the Salem witch trials that happened in early America, and similar things all over the world, and similar religions doing similar kind of things. Yeah, this happened all over the world, not just among Christians. Yeah, it even happened among Indians. People don't believe that, but it did. There was a time period in which the Pawnee Indians were sacrificing children. They would go to other tribes, invade those smaller tribes, take off with their children and kidnap the women, and they would sacrifice, burn these babies alive to appease their gods. And in the meantime, they would rape the women to produce more babies to sacrifice. They were doing this for a number of years. And they invaded a Dakota camp. The Dakota people came to the Lakota group because we're all the same nation. It's just that, the difference in our language is where we speak with the L, they use a D. Other than that, it's the same language. It's the same culture. Yeah? So they came to the Lakota group, who are a warrior society. The Dakotas are more of a fisherman, agricultural society. They do have warriors, but this Pawnee group was kind of big. So they came to the Lakota people and told them what happened. So the Lakota group went over there, chased them all the way to Mexico, yeah, and killed them as they were falling. And they wanted the Pawnee to remember to never do this again. See, the Pawnee were being dualistic. They were rising. They put themselves above other Indians and said, we need to, our God says that we must offer babies as sacrifice. And so they would invade other enemies, other tribes. You see what I mean? They're oppressing. That is duality. This happened before white people came to America. This happened before Christopher Columbus even got the notion to get lost in the Atlantic. This duality existed in North and South America before white people came. This was not created by the white man. And similar activities happened among tribes throughout other areas as well too. So duality is not just belongs to, you know, Christianity or any kind of religion. It also happened in North America. As soon as somebody says, we're better than you, as soon as somebody says it must be our way, that's duality. Okay? Now, let's look at Christianity now, because this is the dominant religion right now. I mean, Islam is fast growing too, but Christianity has been around for a hell of a long time. And so I'm going to use this angle. Okay? All right. Christianity says that they control nature. They can do whatever they want with nature because God gave them that right to do so. This is what it says in their Bible. Really is man-made. Yeah, they created these rules themselves. So, according to them, boys can only be a certain way, and girls can only be a certain way too. That girls were designed for boys as they grow up. Yeah, that this is their intention. This is God's intention. And remember, God is an idea that was made up by man to control society, their own society and others, to oppress others. That even if they disagree with them, then they say God gives them the right to destroy them. That's duality. Yeah, either this way or that way. There's two options. That's duality. And Lakota Star knowledge is completely different. Yeah, it's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's about what can we learn. Can we learn together? Sometimes we can. Yeah. So in Lakota Star knowledge, it's based on nature. It's based on, how things happen in nature. Is that sometimes really beautiful things happen. Sometimes other things happen. It doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean they're ugly. It just means other things. Yeah? And sometimes another thing happens. Yeah? It's never, in nature, it's never this or that. In nature, it's this, that, and the other. And also, there could be many others. That's why I said Lakota Star Knowledge teaches that reality has at least 3 perspectives. And it's not about which one is the good one. It's about what can I learn from this? What can we learn from this? Sometimes things happen that are out of the norm. We call that wakan. And sometimes this means sacred, but sometimes it means something that is special. It's energy. So that when that third thing happens, it's really, really interesting. And this happens to humans as well. Sometimes a child is born and it's both male and female. Yeah, it has both and female parts. And this is special. This is not a deformation. This is not an abomination. This is Wakhan. This is a physical representation of a being who represents 2 cycles, male and female. In Lakota Star Knowledge, we have a very beautiful story called When the Moon Cried. I don't have enough time to tell that story, but the result of that story is the creation of a male cycle and a female cycle. The female cycle is monthly. The male cycle is yearly. Neither one is more important than the other. They're just two different cycles. They're just two different perspectives. And they can accommodate each other. But neither one is over the other. They can complement each other. This is the way it is in our culture. The man is not above the woman, and neither is the woman above the man. They have two different perspectives. And when they can reach an understanding, this is holy. Yeah, this is sacred. Because at the end of their lives, they are Mahasani. That is really sacred. But sometimes children are born that represent that concept in one child. That's why they're considered sacred. They have both the male and female cycle. Now, sometimes a child might be born and it is physically could be a girl, but inside is a boy. This happens. Nature. Nature has wonderful peculiarities like this. This is not wrong. This is just nature. So, several thousand years ago, when something like this happened, then the child was allowed to express who he was or who she was inside of themselves. So if it was a girl, she would go around like a man, because inside of her was the mind of a man. Inside of her was the male perspective, even though her body was a woman. But she was seen, a lot of, not just Lakota people were this way, but our allies, the Cheyenne, they were this way too. There was a well-known Cheyenne warrior that fought the Battle of the Little Bighorn. She fought after that with the Cheyenne people and Lakota people, and they all accepted her as a man. She dressed like a man. She even looked like a man, but she was a woman. This is one of those people. And among the Indian people, they accepted her. She wanted to be seen as a man because inside of her body, her mind, she was a man. And she dressed like it. And everybody accepted her as a man. She was a member of a men's warrior society because they saw her as a man. If they lived today, she probably would have went through the operations that they have today, the completing the physical transition, hormonal treatment and everything. She probably would have went through that and probably would have lived an even happier life, because then she could finally, on the outside, reflect what she is on the inside. But in our culture, this was acceptable. This was normal. This was a part of nature. And this happened the other way too. There were boys who grew up, who were born, and they just, inside of themselves, they were girls. And so they were allowed to be raised with the other girls. They wore dresses. They kept themselves just like they were women. And they were accepted as women. Yeah? These are sacred people. Yeah? In this story, When the Moon Cried, it talks about the male cycle, it talks about the female cycle, but it also mentions that there are people that have both cycles. And sometimes there are people that for whatever reason, something happens When the lady is carrying the child, there might be some kind of chemical reaction where the mind develops in a different way than the body is. That's why when these children are born, they see what kind of is this going to be is this boy really a boy or could it be a girl? And vice versa. They look at these female children and they say, are these really girls or is one of them really a boy inside? Because if she's a boy inside, we have to let her express that. Otherwise, she's going to live a sad life. They want the children to grow up to be healthy emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally. So they have to find out, are these children, what are they? And like I said, if one of them has the mind of a girl but the body of a boy, then they have to let her live as a girl. If that's her choice, they let her live as a girl. Yeah, just because she has a body of a boy, they don't force her to do the things that boys are being taught. Because her mind is a girl. Yeah? Because see, the reason why this is accepted, that this was a beautiful thing, is because reality begins within. Yeah? Reality begins within, and this is in the mind. And so if this person has a male body, but inside she's female, this is her reality. And reality begins within. So she's allowed to express herself as a woman. And like I said, if these people lived today and our societies were still with that third perspective, these people would be all having these operations to complete the physical transformation. So in our culture, we had transgender people. This fits in our society because we live with nature. And nature says there's at least three perspectives. Yeah? So it's possible. Your baby is born and it's physically a boy, but as you watch it, it heads towards the female side. And you don't try and stop it, but you don't push it either. You just let the child be. Just let the child be. If it's a phase, phases end by natural law. Yeah? Phases will end all on their own. You don't have to do anything. They will end by themselves. But if it doesn't end, then you know this is a transgender. And there's nothing wrong with that. You let that child be what that child is inside of themselves. And the only downside is there wasn't a way for them to complete it on the outside. Yeah? That's why I said in today's world they would go through the hormonal treatments. In today's world, they would have recognized this before they hit puberty. So for the boys and girls, they will stop the puberty. There's drugs to do that now. Yeah, you can stop the puberty so that those characteristics don't develop. And then they take hormonal treatments to get the body to develop the way the mind is, so that it reflects what the mind is. You see, life is just what you make of it. Now, when the child is born inside the woman, yeah, when the child is born inside the woman, there's things that could still happen to its physical development where the mind was female all along, but the body, because of some kind of whatever happening with the mother in relation to that child, something might have happened to cause the chemicals to physically move the chromosomes or whatever to produce a physically male body, even though the mind is female. So you have to make the best of the situation for that child, not for you, for the child. Yeah? So that's why when these children, when they saw them, that this is what they were, they let them be that way. Because if it's a phase, they knew that they would come out of it. If they don't come out of it, they know it's not a phase. And they know that it's a woman with a man's body. That's our understanding of nature. This is why they were accepted. Yeah? So we had this in our culture. We have a term called winkte. It has several definitions, and none of them are gay. That's the misunderstanding. A lot of people think that winkte means gay. They think that means homosexual. It doesn't. Yeah? It doesn't mean that. What it means is several possibilities. A winkte is a man who could be physically male and has the perspective of both the male and the female equally. This is a man who can totally understand women. He knows their cycle. Even though he has the male cycle, he can comprehend 100% the female cycle. That's one definition of a winkte. Another definition is a person who is born both male and female, because there are people this way. The scientific name for them is hermaphrodite. They have both male and female genitals. Some of them lean more to the female side in the rest of their body. Yeah? The rest of their body might lean more to the female side. Some of them it might lean more to the male side, but they both have both body parts. These are also sacred because it's a physical representation of the male and female perspective. And again, they have both the male and female perspective. That's another definition of winkte. And the third one is a transgen. Yeah, this is a boy who has the mind of a girl. This is not a mistake. Okay? Because guess what? In nature, there are no mistakes. Nature happens. Nature is. So therefore, we must be. Yeah? So when you use that concept, and you see one of these children, you let them be. Meaning, since reality begins within, if this child is physically male, but inside is female, you let that person be female. That's natural law. Yeah. So one of the good things about today's technology is these kind of people can now make the transformation complete. Yeah. They can now reflect what's on the inside because reality begins within. This is not a mistake. Life is just what you make of it. So if the technology is there, then use it. Yeah, use it to and for transgen people, this is for this. Believe me, this is a blessing. The quality is so much more increased when they complete the transition. This is not a phase. This is not a mistake. This is not a sin. This is not an abomination. This is nature. This is life. Yeah? So this is how that is in our culture. So we had these people. But duality says that these people are an abomination because duality says that their God made man and woman and that men must do men things and women must do women things. Physical. If your body is physically male, then you are a boy. If your body is physically woman, then you are a woman. That's what duality says. And if you try to, mix that up, then you are from the devil. Do you see? That's duality. So duality frowns on transgender people. But our ancient society allowed them to be. We let them be. Why should we not let them be? What good is that going to do to not let them be? Everybody has a right to be who they are and to develop their talents, to make choices and learn and love. That's how we live. And so do these people. They have that same right. When inside of their bodies they're the opposite sex, they have every right to live as that. Whatever they are in their mind, they have every right to be that, to express that, because that's where they begin. So in our culture, this was normal. Yeah, this was normal. It was special. It was wakhan. But today's Western world is dualistic. Yeah, and so the Western belief systems say that these people are freaks. Says they should be put to death. That they should not exist. That they are mentally retarded. That there's something wrong. They need medication. That they should be locked up and kept away from society because they're perverts. And they just, that's because of duality. They're violating these people's right to exist. How does a God of love support that? Duality is the greatest con in this world. And anything that falls under it, and that includes Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, Mormonism, Scientology, anything that shows things as either this or that is a violation of natural law. It's a violation of the universe. Duality is a violation of the universe. So anything that falls under that is the violation. And this is why they say that transgender people should be put to death. In some time periods, they call them witches. That must have been a hard time. Yeah, like in certain parts of the world where they weren't understood and their land was incredibly dualistic. That they had to force themselves to live as what they really weren't, just to stay alive. That must have been a really hard, sad life. And that's because of duality. That's because of man's fear of what he cannot understand. Man's fear of passion. Man's fear of true love. He has to say that all of that is evil and from the devil. Yeah? So in Western society, these people are frowned upon, they're made fun of. Today, they're made fun of, they're put down and ridiculed. That's really sad. And that's so typical of a dualistic society. They get ostracized by the community. Most of the time, their family will disown them. Yeah, suddenly the guy comes, maybe he's gone for several years and then he comes back to visit his mother and his father and he's a woman. And they cannot accept him. They disown him. And they call him mentally deficient. And they don't accept him anymore. Most of the time, that's what happens. That's because of duality. So believing in good versus evil is not a healthy thing because it hurts so many people in this world that do not deserve that pain. But it's all because of man's need to control others that it fears. Man's need to rise above others. Man's need to prove to others that they are right. And if you don't agree with them, that you are wrong. Duality is the root of all evil. Evil comes from duality. It comes from man, not nature. Yeah? So transgen, this is normal. In nature, this is normal. And thank goodness, today the technology is there and it's going to get better. It's really good right now, but it's going to get even better for people to complete that physical change, to finally express themselves as they are inside of themselves. So transgen, this is not a mental disorder. This is nature. Nature is. So we should be. And let these people be. They're a part of us too. They're nature. They're also ikje oyate. Just like every human is ikje oyate. Transgen people are not less than us. They are us. Anybody out there who might be this way, I encourage you to follow it. Your reality begins inside of you. So whatever you are inside of you, express that. Because that's normal. You are normal. It's duality that's fucked up. Okay? So hang in there. You have a lot of people on your side. A lot. This is wider than most people think. People think that this just happens every now and then. You know what? There are so many people in this world who are transgen. I don't even know it. Because they've been brainwashed by duality, by the religion that their society belongs to. They're forcing themselves to be something they absolutely are not. This is nature. And nature is. And we should be. Yeah, the transgen people, they are us. Yeah, we're all ikje oyate. For those of you that disagree with me, you have every right to. But I speak from Lakota Star knowledge, and I know that what I'm saying is from the ancestors because this is their knowledge. This is how they communicated with each other from their sacred centers, which is inside of themselves, where reality begins, where the physical body, the mind, the heart, and the soul all connect. And when we live in this healthy way, this is a way of life. This is not a religion. It's a way of life. Religion comes from duality. That's what causes the world's problems. Our way of life is living, it's learning, and it leads to love. And that can only be found within yourself, to be at peace in yourself. And then you communicate to others from your sacred center, and your communication carries this power to other people. And that's how you influence them. This is the way of our ancestors. I'm not talking about the teepee days. I'm talking about several million years ago when there was only one continent. And we were called Ikje Oyate. We weren't even called Lakota. Now, for those of us who are Lakota, we weren't even called Lakota in the beginning. We were called Ikje Oyate. Everybody was. There's nothing in the star knowledge stories that says there was red people or black people or white people or, beige people or whatever. It doesn't say anything like that. It says Ikje Oyate, that we're all people. Because no matter where you go, no matter what people you go among, all babies all over this world speak the same language. And we all need earth, wind, fire, and water to live, and we all bleed red. Red is the color of life. It doesn't represent Indians. It represents life. Reality begins within. That's how the universe was created. There's something about this, to me, that is very special, and I have a very special connection to this somehow. I don't understand yet, but something. This means so much to me. And I want to present this in the best way that I can. And this is based on Lakota star knowledge. This is an ancient thing. This has always been here. This is not something that's just a freak of nature that just started recently. This has always been here. We've always had this in our society. This is part of life. They are us. We are them. We're all in this together. We have listeners all over the world. And this show is an international show. It just has a Lakota flavor, but this message is designed for all people because our ancestors communicated from their sacred centers. And when you communicate from there is no skin color. Yeah, within you, there is no skin color. There is no race. There is no language. There is no shape. There's no form. This is your sacred area. That's why this show is international and it's intended for everyone. I encourage you to at least think about what I said and be who you are. Whatever you are inside of yourself, in your mind, be that, because that's where your reality begins. And no matter what people say around you, that's none of their concern. So live your life for you. In this way, you can really teach your children how to live.